Welcome to America Uncanceled. I'm Mercedes Schlapp along with Matt Schlapp. Well, after Bud Light, Target, and the North Face kicked off the summer with some of the most perverse ads and marketing schemes we've seen to date, it seems like woke corporations are actively challenging conservatives and patriotic Americans to take their business elsewhere. With so little to lose and so much to gain, why shouldn't conservatives and Americans spend their money elsewhere and start supporting the corporations that actually respect their values? Joining us today is a friend of CPAC's, Michael Seifer, CEO of Public Square. We are so happy, Michael, that you're joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Michael, this is like the gift that keeps on giving. It's like a bad gift. It's like holding your stocking, though. So, like, these companies, they're like in a death spiral to lose the business of more than 50% of the consumer base in America. Why are they continuing to double down on this idiocy of embracing woke?
They have made a pledge to ESG standards and DEI philosophies, and you almost have to commend their commitment to the insanity, because even though their stock prices are taking major hits, like, they are so tied to these ideologies that they're just letting the ship sink and going down with it. It's really astonishing to watch as brand after brand commits suicide and continues to slap their consumers in the face. But I'm hopeful, because while they are committed to these ideologies that will only lead to their businesses ultimately deplenishing, we are seeing this beautiful parallel economy rise up of conservative and patriotic and more traditionally valued Americans that are saying, we actually are willing to go prioritize alternatives, and the alternatives are flourishing in the process. So I'm excited. It's a new dawn for the American economy, and I think that patriotism and classic American values are going to lead the way forward.
So, Michael, I mean, for progressives, you're kind of like their worst nightmare. Like, for these liberal activists, these leftists, they're looking at you and they're saying, wait a second here, how dare he go and start this company and try to take our business and not be in line with the LGBTQ agenda, the Satanist agenda. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, how do you deal with the critics?
Well, we sort of embrace the criticism, because for us, it's a sign that we're over the target. I think it's a really, really good sign when people that are trying to pervert your children hate you. Yeah. It's good that those people do not like us. It's good that the CEO of Target does not like us. That's objectively a good thing, because it means that we are swimming in a different direction than many of these cultural leaders that are deciding to base their entire messaging toward 5% of the country or less that are the radicals, when the majority of Americans are saying, we're actually really tired of being lectured about gender ideology when we're trying to buy a pair of pants. We get to speak to that crowd, and anytime we face opposition, we know that it means our message is resonating. And the other good news in all of this is that you nailed it. We are their worst enemy, because for a long time they've banked on, a few conservatives saying we should boycott, but it doesn't really move the needle. It doesn't make serious change unless they can move their buying power somewhere else.
Right.
Now we are their worst nightmare, because we're providing alternatives for people to hopefully go move their purchasing power elsewhere. This movement that we are trying to create has to be birthed and then carried out with hope, positivity, a belief that a better future for our country is possible. But that's not what Starbucks and Target and all these different woke corporations want you to embrace. They want you to believe with this sort of dependency class mindset that they're your only options. But it's just not true.
So how do people get your app?
Well, thanks for asking. You head to publicsq.com. That's the best place to get started, because there you can find access to the platform both on a web environment and then also the app. So whether you're iOS or Android, you can download the app on App Store or Google Play. But that's the best place to get started. And just in the last week, in response to Target, Matt, Mercedes, it has been phenomenal to witness the increase in traffic. We've had 50x higher traffic than we've ever had just in the past week.
I don't have the app yet, so Colton's job is going to be to help me get the app.
We need the younger people. I actually kind of laughed when you asked that question, because I was thinking in my head, you're either going to ask, Colton, who's young and brilliant, or our daughter, her birthday's today, the 20-year-old, to download the app.
Somebody's going to fix it. But the second thing is that CPAC and Public Square, it's a nice setup, because we wrote a letter to the CEO of Target, which I'm sure Colton will put on the screen so everyone can see. You can go to our website at cpac.org to add your name to the petition telling Target to stop doing business with a Satanist. But it's one thing when a conservative group points out wrongdoing and malfeasance and anti-American crap in a C-suite in a big company, but it's another thing to give that activist, or that person who just loves the country, wouldn't even consider themselves an activist, a tool so that they can go buy their trash bags or their paper towels or whatever they're getting. They get it from a company that doesn't want to create, cultural revolution in America.
Well, that's our goal. We are really action focused. I do not want to be someone that just says, here's all the businesses you shouldn't go to. Mm-hmm. That's productive to an extent, but I'd much rather focus on where you should go instead, because ultimately what will really speak to the Starbucks and the Targets of the world is when they lose 5 or 15 or 30 or 50 million Americans and that customer buying power goes somewhere else. I mean, Matt, the last week, the mama bears have been the one that have been leading the charge.
Amen.
I'm married to one. I understand.
It's awesome.
So's Michael.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reality. Moms make over 70% of daily purchases for the household in the United States. Yeah. Mama bears are consumer market. They're the holy grail. You do not want to frustrate them. So when Target is making these statements that stand so antithetical to the values of so many moms, they need a hopeful list of alternatives, and that's what we're trying to provide.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I was telling Matt the other day, I'm so exhausted with all the companies. I have to keep a list that I have to boycott. But, I really do believe it's really one of the first times I've seen boycotts actually starting to work. I think you're starting to see more and more people, more and more of these moms saying, I've had enough. I just want to buy a good product. I don't want to have to deal with the politics surrounding it. I don't want them indoctrinating my children. And so what I love about Public Square is that parents now are able to go and say, you know what, I'm going to go support this local mom and pop shop. And so tell me about the businesses that are coming on board with Public Square.
Well, they're 90% plus small businesses, which is really important for us. In fact, we have 5 company core values that when a new business signs up, they agree to respect these values, and that helps customers know with a blessed assurance that they're not funding their opposition. These 5 core values are not political, they're principled. They're far deeper than politics. What's great about value number 3 is that it's small businesses are the backbone of our economy. They have to be protected and preserved. While the globalists want to create this sort of dependency class renter state, where we basically buy things or rent things from 5 major companies, and those are all our options, we fundamentally believe that that's a destructive way to go. We would much rather support the American economy through the flourishing of small businesses in our local community. And so we're really proud that we are the largest compilation of small businesses in the United States today.
Right.
And it's phenomenal to watch the way that these vendors have come out of the woodworks, whether they're a dry cleaner, a plumber, a clothing company, a retailer, a restaurant, or a coffee shop. And they've said we want to embrace this parallel economy because they believe that this group of consumers are going to be the ones that fight for their existence for the future in the long haul. During COVID, Mercy, it was so destructive, I think, when the government came out and they said some businesses are essential and others are non-essential.
Yes.
And it was so often small businesses that were getting the brunt of the non-essential language. The Walmart got to stay open, but not your local mom and pop shop. Yeah. And so for us, we're really wanting to fundamentally turn the tide, say that all small businesses are essential, especially those that say we stand with the values that have made this country great, and we're proud to give those a lot of promotion.
Mm-hmm. Why don't we start shutting down the big guys and let the little guys stay in business?
That would be the goal.
We had a conversation with someone who helps us in our family, and we were talking about where we should go to buy things. And people immediately say, oh, Target, doing business with a Satanist, let's go to Walmart. Well, you look at Walmart, they're for the whole agenda. They're for 9 months of abortion for their employees. They pay for their travel. They put them up in a nice hotel. They're basically, you're subsidizing, encouraging people to give up on their unborn life. It's the most terrible thing you can imagine. That's one of your core principles. So people have to be careful. Something like Bud Light pops up. They say, I don't want to buy Bud Light. Next thing you know, they're buying Michelob Ultra or whatever. They're buying another InBev product. So Michael's website can help you understand all the products that are under that umbrella. And the key is go to the mom and pop store. Go to the mom and pop dry cleaner. We go to a mom and pop place on the weekends and buy as much as we need for our family in the house. We know the owner. He loves America. Yeah. He puts up his flag. He stays out of politics. And we like that. People are waking up and saying, hey, just give me the product. Don't give me the politics that are offensive to me.
Well, you're spot on. And what's great too is that the right type of businesses, the ones that you just described, that are owned by an American that just loves the country and wants to serve the community well, we are seeing them flourish in a new level. And what I also want to encourage people to recognize is that not only is there this sort of woke battle going on at the moment,
Right.
there's a more macroeconomic play here where a lot of the countries that we have based our manufacturing off of for decades really hate us. I mean, China is obviously the most obvious example, but Venezuela as well. We have put a lot of our eggs in the baskets of countries that stand opposed to our values as Americans.
Yeah.
But what's happening is that many of those countries, their demographics are collapsing. They cannot keep up as the global superpowers of manufacturing. So we are going to need a real rebirth, an American renaissance that rises up, that brings our manufacturing back to our shores, focuses on the businesses that makes our country special. And I'm excited that as that wake up continues to happen, more people are going to recognize that marketplaces like ours are the answer, because there's no better way to get started in the parallel economy than with a marketplace exchange. Once you support those businesses, they have greater financial firepower to be able to bring their manufacturing back to our shores, focus more on hiring American workers. This is a long-term play that we got to have the long game in mind, but I believe that what we're seeing here in the last few months is a sign that Americans are ready to embrace a different future, and it gets me really excited.
I got to ask you, because one of the tweets you recently sent out, it was in response to another person's tweet talking about Chick-fil-A, that Chick-fil-A put out a statement, basically their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. They basically say, something tells me Chick-fil-A is going to be called to repent soon. You respond to this tweet saying, unreal, another brand committing suicide and slapping their primary audience in the face. Let me tell you, if we lose Chick-fil-A, I might have to become a vegetarian, Michael. I don't know if I can handle this.
Well, let me tell you, I think we're going to hold Chick-fil-A to a higher standard, too, because they have pushed their brand on being mostly owned by Christian families. You can have one franchise, by and large, in their network. We know some of the people who own these in the Chick-fil-A's we go to, and those owners are going to be fit to be tied if Chick-fil-A goes along this route.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually our encouragement to all the owner-operators of these Chick-fil-A's right now that are managing incredible teams and wanting to kind of buy into the values that Chick-fil-A originally espoused. Our encouragement to them is speak up, make your voice heard right now, because corporate needs to hear that the values that they are pushing and trying to speak out of both sides of their mouth do not represent the values of each of these different locations. We have many Chick-fil-A locations on our app that today are really frustrated by what's happening at the corporate level. And my encouragement as well to consumers is hold brands like this accountable to their original value sets. I mean, this is not just unique to Chick-fil-A. We see so many brands that are birthed with amazing Judeo-Christian values at the helm. And as they get bigger and bigger, they begin to sell out. They get bought by big entities like Procter & Gamble, and they lose their way. And so our encouragement is don't let the values that built you die. Chick-fil-A became the most successful fast food franchise in the country because they prioritized a different message that resonated with an audience that was so strong. So now they're still wanting to say we're closed on Sundays because we hold fast to our Christian traditions, but at the same time we're going to hire based on affirmative action. You can't have it both ways. You got to choose.
That's exactly right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree with you completely.
I did want to ask one quick question, because you see, even just through this Memorial Day weekend, no one was buying Bud Light. I mean, the stores were trying to literally give it for free.
I saw a guy trying to put in his gas tank because he thought maybe that was kind of like a form of
so I got to
ethanol.
ask you, Michael, because this is really interesting to me, because I, as a crisis comms person, and I like to fix problems, I look at what the big crisis communications issue that Bud Light has had. They have not recovered. I mean, they've lost over $15 million. Walk me through, is Bud Light will they not be able to start anew and really rebuild their brand?
Let me make one correction. It's not 15 million.
What?
It's 15 billion.
Oh, sorry, 15 billion. But
some of their distributors have lost 15 million. That's how bad this is.
But let me ask you, is it fixable? Is Bud Light and that whole issue, is it fixable?
It's not. And I think that's a pretty objective analysis at this point, because you are seeing it become almost a cultural faux pas to drink Bud Light. So when Bud Light's become the butt of a joke, this is far deeper than just a boycott at this point.
Right.
There's this tweet that's going viral right now. I don't know who originally posted it, but essentially, you're drinking Bud Light at a Target is like the new insult of 2023. And I think that speaks volumes. When your brand becomes the butt of a cultural joke, it's very hard to see redemption. So you're seeing Bud Light try. They're doing the camouflage cans, and they're doing a partnership with Harley Davidson and their motorcycle. It's not going to work.
No, because those aren't values. Those are gimmicks. And they are signing on the dotted line to the values of the hard left, and which is obnoxious to the rest of us. And putting woke in camo doesn't solve the problem. And so, I want to go back to this point you made, which we really should do shows talking about these people that started these great brands. You have like Sam Walton that started Walmart. Would Sam Walton want Walmart to be lobbying Asa Hutchinson, the then governor of Arkansas, to sign all these pieces of legislation that seek to sexualize our kids and get them to be gender confused at young and tender ages? I can't imagine he'd want anything to do with that. Would Walt Disney want to have anything to do with the Disney company, where they're just continuing to sexualize our kids in each and every kind of perverted way you can imagine? I have to wonder with these companies, do they even talk about their founders anymore?
They don't. They don't respect them. They actually believe that their founders are old relics that are outdated and shouldn't be factored into marketing decisions. You heard Bud Light share this perfectly. The VP of marketing said our brand is outdated. It's fratty, it's old. You saw Miller Lite come out and criticize how they used to brand. You're seeing these brands deprecate. They're saying that we are essentially a new era of an old sort of racist, bigoted brand, and it's our mandate, that's what the VP of marketing at Bud Light said, to correct the ills of the past. It's really a slap in the face to the original founders. And by the way, that's happening on a macro level in culture generally. We're wanting to tear down statues. We're unwilling to recognize with any sort of honor those that have come before us to build. And we think we're so high and mighty that we would have done things so differently. Meanwhile, we're killing a record number of people in abortions. Like, how dare we think as a culture that we are so high and mighty and we would have been any better? We're committing modern day slavery right now. Like, we are absolutely ignorant to the heroes that have built our society in our desire to just kind of paint them all as bigots. The other thing I'll point out, Matt, is that Sam Walton's a great example. Sam Walton used to go through the aisles in Walmart, and he would sit there for 8 hours. He'd have these chairs that he'd sit in the corner, and when people would walk down the aisles, he would go up to them and he'd ask them, "What are you looking for today? Why are you here?
Wow.
What goals are you trying to achieve by shopping at Walmart?" All he cared about was wanting to get in the minds of his customers. Today, though, their customers, they don't give a rip about. Walmart has completely forgotten who built their brand. They don't care about their customers. They don't care about the values that established it. It's a political organization. And we're seeing that across these different companies. And I think the only way to reclaim the values that built the company is by going back and honoring how they got there in the first place. But I find it hard pressed to believe they're going to do that.
Well, we're going to close out this show. It's been a great interview. I don't know who's closing out the show. Are you closing out?
I can close it, but
all right, but let me say one thing before. In all the years that Mr. Sam stood in those aisles in Walmart or sat in that chair, I guarantee you there wasn't one customer over all those episodes that walked up to Mr. Sam and said, "I would like my son or daughter to change their gender." I bet that conversation never occurred. And for this younger generation of the Walton family to push this kind of bullcrap onto our kids and act like this is a value consistent with Walmart is just completely obnoxious.
Sell products, stay out of politics. But Michael, you've been such a brave leader, and I have to say you inspire so many of us to know that we're part of this fight, and speaking up is so important, and that you're a critical voice for millions of Americans out there who are so frustrated with these woke corporations, and you're providing a solution. So two things. One is go to cpac.org. Make sure you sign that petition to go basically tell Target to basically end their partnership with the satanic designer. I can't believe we're even having this conversation. And more importantly, make sure you download the Public Square app. That is critical. Or make sure your child downloads your Public Square app if you don't know how to do it. Right?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Michael, for joining CPAC Now.
Thank you both.
And remember, if you missed an episode, you can always go back and watch on our website. Just go to cpac.org/now, or you can listen wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next time. God bless.